Snow White is a film that demands reflection, not because of what it accomplishes, but because of what it represents. $200 million budget should promise something extraordinary, something transformative, magical, or at the very least, memorable. Instead, what we receive is a film that is simply fine, serviceable, acceptable in the broadest, most uninspired sense of the word, and for a film rooted in one of the most iconic fairy tales of all time, that reality feels almost tragic. The director that I love, Mark Webber, of 500 Days of Summer and Amazing Spider-Man, had the potential to bring a fresh and compelling vision to this story. Yet Disney's current trend with live-action adaptations seems to follow a rigid formula. Take a beloved classic, strip it of its inherent magic, and repackage it with just enough nostalgia to convince audiences that it still holds some semblance of its former charm. But does it really? There's an undeniable sense of deja vu. We've seen this pattern with The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Pinocchio, and each time there's an initial rush of excitement, the hope that this time, maybe this time, we'll capture the magic. And yet, when revisited, the realization settles in. They're all just fine. Not great, not timeless, just fine. And what's particularly telling is the audience's reaction. In my theater, children couldn't sit still. They weren't engaged. There was no spellbinding moment that held their attention. No thrilling sequence that excited or with gasps or laughter. And who could blame them? The film lacks energy and humor and the sense of adventure. It's an exercise of aesthetics rather than storytelling, which sets that feel overly polished yet lifeless performance that struggles to elevate mediocre dialogue and at a pacing that never quite finds its rhythm. But Rachel Zegler, a talented actress with stunning vocal range, delivers a performance that feels oddly restrained. This version of Snow White seems burdened by melancholy, lacking the infectious optimism and warmth of the original character. It leans closer to the subdued resilience of Cinderella, rather than the wide-eyed wonder of Snow White's audiences have cherished for nearly a century. And while Ziegler's voice soars, the film itself does not provide her with material that allows her to truly shine. In the supporting cast, and the motion capture and the new songs, everything is just sufficient. The film manipulates emotions in the most predictable ways, presenting a reimagining that, while visually competent, never elevates beyond being a passable distraction. And more concerning, it feels like a film that's made to satisfy a corporate checklist rather than a passion for storytelling. And then, of course, there's this ever-present controversy. Discussions about casting and modernized narratives and reinterpretive themes have dominated the conversation leading up to the film's release. But do these discussions ultimately change the fundamental issue? A film can modernize, diversify, and adapt as much as it wants, but if the core of its story is missing, if the magic is gone, then what's the point? Disney once the master of wonder, seems to be content with delivering products rather than experiences. And a $200 million budget should promise spectacle and emotion, and what we receive is the cinematic equivalent of a theme park souvenir, something nice enough to look at, but ultimately destined to gather dust. And that's the real disappointment. We as an audience deserve more. If studios insist on retelling these stories, then the bare minimum should be to create something magical, something that justifies its existence beyond being a rehashed, uninspired attempt to capitalize on nostalgia. Because at the end of the day, when we walk out of the theater, we don't want to feel like we just saw something fine. We want to feel the magic. And Snow White simply doesn't deliver it. And yet, now we wait 2 months for Lilo and Stitch, and unfortunately, after seeing the new trailer, it doesn't look promising. But what do you think? Did Snow White have the magic you were looking for? What do you think is the best live-action Disney movie? Thank you for going on this film journey with me, and as always, be real.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all?